Sarah Jenkins pulled her car into the hospital parking lot on a bright Monday morning. The Atlanta sun was already beating down, making her wish she had remembered her sunglasses. As she walked through the automatic doors of Atlanta Memorial Hospital, she had no idea this ordinary day would change her life forever. At 32 years old, Sarah was one of the most respected physical therapists in the hospital. Her colleagues often praised her gentle touch with patients and her ability to push them just enough to make progress. Her dark skin glowed with natural beauty, and her warm brown eyes carried kindness that put her patients at ease right away. "Good morning, Sarah," called Nancy, the receptionist. "You got a new patient coming in at 9 a.m. He's a special case. The hospital board is very interested in his progress." Sarah raised her eyebrows. "Oh, what makes him so special?" "Marcus Thompson, from Thompson Tech Solutions." Nancy lowered her voice. "He was in a terrible car accident 3 months ago. He's been doing initial recovery at private facilities, but he specifically requested to continue his rehabilitation here." Sarah had heard of Thompson Tech Solutions. The company was making waves in the technology industry with its innovative designs for adaptive equipment. She hadn't known about the accident, though. At exactly 9 a.m., the therapy room doors opened. A nurse wheeled in a man in his mid-30s. Despite being in a wheelchair, he sat straight with dignity. His warm brown skin was clear, and his eyes were sharp and alert. He wore simple but expensive-looking clothes, a navy sweater and gray slacks. "Mr. Thompson." Sarah stepped forward with a professional smile. "I'm Sarah Jenkins, and I'll be your physical therapist." Marcus Thompson looked up at her, and his face broke into a genuine smile that made his eyes crinkle at the corners. "Please call me Marcus. It's nice to meet you, Ms. Jenkins." "Sarah," she corrected automatically. There was something about his smile that made her want to smile back. As Sarah began her initial assessment, she found Marcus to be different from many of her wealthy patients. He didn't complain or make demands. Instead, he answered her questions thoughtfully and showed real interest in understanding his treatment plan. "The accident damaged my lower spine," he explained while Sarah tested his leg mobility. "The doctors say I might walk again with intensive therapy, but they're not making any promises." Sarah nodded, keeping her touch professional as she worked. "Every person's recovery is different. The important thing is to stay committed to the process, even when it gets challenging." "I built my company from nothing," Marcus said, his voice determined. "I'm not afraid of hard work." Over the next hour, Sarah learned more about Marcus. He had started Thompson Tech Solutions from his garage 6 years ago, driven by a desire to make technology more accessible for everyone. The company now employed over 200 people and had contracts with major hospitals across the country. "What made you choose our hospital?" Sarah asked as she helped him with his first set of exercises. Marcus winced slightly as he moved his legs. "I did my research. Your department has one of the highest success rates in the state. Plus," he added with a small smile, "I like that your team focuses on treating patients like people, not just cases." Sarah felt touched by his words. Too many hospitals were becoming more like businesses than places of healing. As their session ended, Marcus surprised her by asking, "Would you mind if I came a few minutes early next time? I'd love to hear more about your experience in physical therapy." Sarah found herself saying yes before she could think too hard about it. There was something genuine about Marcus that made her comfortable, despite his status and wealth. Watching him leave, Sarah felt a strange flutter in her stomach. She quickly pushed it aside. He was her patient, nothing more. Still, for the rest of the day, she caught herself thinking about his kind eyes and the way his whole face lit up when he smiled. That evening, as Sarah drove home, she realized she was actually looking forward to their next session. Little did she know, this was just the beginning of a story that would change both their lives forever. 2 weeks had passed since Marcus's first therapy session. Sarah noticed how he always arrived 15 minutes early, bringing coffee for both of them. At first, she tried to refuse, but Marcus insisted it was just his way of thanking her for the extra time she spent explaining his exercises. Marcus said one morning, sipping his coffee, "My mother thinks I should have gone to a private facility." He wheeled himself closer to the window, where the morning sun streamed in. "But I told her there's something special about this place." Sarah felt her cheeks warm slightly as she organized her treatment notes. She had started looking forward to these morning conversations more than she wanted to admit. "Your mother sounds very protective," she said carefully. Marcus laughed. That's putting it mildly. She's been extra worried since the accident. I think she forgets I'm 35, not 5. As they began the day's therapy session, Sarah noticed Marcus was pushing himself harder than usual. Sweat beaded on his forehead as he attempted the new exercises she had introduced. You're making good progress, Sarah encouraged him, supporting his back as he tried to strengthen his core muscles. But remember, recovery is a marathon, not a sprint. Speaking of marathons, Marcus said between breaths, would you like to have dinner with me this Saturday? Sarah's hands froze on his back. Marcus, I'm your therapist. It wouldn't be professional. I've already talked to Dr. Williams about transferring to Mike's care, Marcus replied, referring to another therapist in the department. He approved it yesterday. This is my last session with you. Sarah stepped back, surprised by how much this news disappointed her. You're switching therapists? Only because I'd like to take you to dinner. Marcus smiled, his eyes hopeful. Unless you're not interested. Sarah thought about all the reasons she should say no. Her last relationship had ended badly. Her family would probably have concerns about her dating someone with a disability. And Marcus was from a wealthy family. Their worlds were so different. But then she thought about their morning talks, his kind eyes, and how he always listened to her stories about her family with genuine interest. Yes, she found herself saying, I'd like that. Saturday evening came, and Sarah spent more time than usual getting ready. She chose a simple blue dress that her sister always said brought out the warmth in her skin tone. Marcus had sent a car service to pick her up. When she arrived at the restaurant, she was surprised to find it empty except for Marcus, who waited at a table near a grand piano. I hope you don't mind, he said, looking slightly nervous for the first time since she'd met him. I rented out the whole place. I thought it might be more comfortable for both of us. Sarah appreciated his thoughtfulness. She had noticed the stares they got during their therapy sessions, some curious, some disapproving. Over dinner, they talked for hours. Marcus told her about growing up as the son of successful lawyers, but wanting to forge his own path. The accident changed a lot of things, he admitted, but it also showed me who really stood by me. Sarah shared stories about her family, her father who worked 2 jobs to put her through college, her mother who still called every day to check on her, and her sister who was studying to become a teacher. They're probably going to have a lot of questions about us, Sarah said honestly, looking down at her dessert. Marcus reached across the table and took her hand. My family will too, but I've learned life's too short to let other people's questions stop you from being happy. As the evening ended and the car took Sarah home, she felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness about what lay ahead. She knew dating Marcus wouldn't be simple. They would face challenges from both their families and society, but something in her heart told her it would be worth it. That night, as she got ready for bed, Sarah's phone buzzed with a message from Marcus. Thank you for giving us a chance. Looking forward to showing you that some risks are worth taking. Sarah smiled at her phone, already looking forward to seeing him again. Sometimes, she thought, the best stories start when we're brave enough to break through our own barriers. 1 month into dating Marcus, Sarah found herself sitting nervously in her parents' living room. The familiar scents of her mother's Sunday cooking filled the air, but today felt different. Marcus was coming to meet her family for the first time. Mom, Dad, Sarah said, smoothing her dress for the 10th time, please just give him a chance. Her father, James, sat in his favorite armchair, looking concerned. Baby girl, we just want to make sure you know what you're getting into. Taking care of someone with a disability isn't easy. Marcus doesn't need anyone to take care of him, Dad, Sarah replied firmly. He's one of the most independent and successful people I know. The doorbell rang, making Sarah jump. Her younger sister, Tracy, rushed to answer it. When the door opened, Marcus sat there in his wheelchair, looking handsome in a crisp blue shirt and holding a bouquet of flowers. Mrs. Jenkins, he said, handing the flowers to Sarah's mother, Lisa. Thank you for inviting me to your home. His warm smile seemed to ease some of the tension in the room. During dinner, Marcus charmed them with stories about his work and his plans for developing new technology to help disabled children. Sarah watched proudly as her father began asking interested questions about Marcus's company. You know, Marcus said, my mother had the same concerns as you when Sarah and I started dating. He looked at Sarah's parents with understanding. She worried Sarah might face too many challenges being with me, but sometimes the heart knows better than our fears. Lisa wiped her eyes with her napkin, touched by his words. You seem like a good man, Marcus. Just promise to take care of our Sarah's heart. The evening ended much better than Sarah had hoped, with her family warming up to Marcus's genuine personality and kind heart. However, not everyone was as accepting. The following weekend, while they were having dinner at an upscale restaurant, Sarah noticed people staring and whispering. Some looked confused by the sight of a black woman dining with a disabled wealthy man. Don't let them bother you, Marcus whispered, seeing her discomfort. They don't know our story. But the real test came when they visited Marcus's parents in their luxurious mansion. His mother, Eleanor Thompson, greeted Sarah with a polite but cold smile. Sarah, dear, Eleanor said during tea in the garden. You seem like a lovely girl, but surely you understand our concerns. Marcus is set to inherit a considerable fortune, and given his condition. Mother, Marcus interrupted firmly, Sarah is a successful physical therapist who makes her own money. She's with me because she loves me, not because of our family's wealth. Sarah sat straighter in her chair. Mrs. Thompson, I understand your worry, that I fell in love with Marcus's heart, his mind, and his spirit. Money has nothing to do with it. Marcus reached for Sarah's hand, squeezing it gently. His father, watching this exchange, smiled slightly and nodded in approval. Over the next few weeks, both families began to see what Sarah and Marcus had known from the start, that their love was genuine and strong. They saw how Marcus made Sarah laugh, how he supported her career dreams, and how she encouraged him through his challenging therapy sessions. One evening, as they sat in Marcus's backyard watching the sunset, Sarah asked him, Do you ever wish things were easier? That we didn't have to deal with all these prejudices? Marcus turned to look at her, his eyes serious. Easy love stories are boring, he said with a smile. Besides, every challenge we overcome together just proves how right we are for each other. Sarah leaned over and kissed him softly. She thought about how far they had come, from therapist and patient to two people deeply in love, fighting against prejudice and winning. That night, as Sarah drove home, she realized something important. True love doesn't just overcome barriers. It proves they never really mattered in the first place. Their story was teaching everyone around them that love sees with the heart, not with the eyes. 6 months into their relationship, Marcus had a secret he was keeping from Sarah. Every Tuesday and Thursday, when Sarah thought he was attending business meetings, he was actually working with Mike, his physical therapist, on a special goal. Though progress was slow, Marcus was determined. Just a few more steps, Mike encouraged, supporting Marcus as he practiced with his leg braces. Think about the moment when it all pays off. Marcus gripped his walking supports tighter, sweat running down his face. The thought of Sarah kept him going, even when his muscles screamed in protest. Meanwhile, Sarah was dealing with her own challenges at work. Some of her colleagues had become distant since learning about her relationship with Marcus. Only Nancy, the receptionist who had first introduced them, remained genuinely supportive. Girl, when you find real love, you hold on to it, Nancy told her during lunch one day. Don't let anyone make you doubt what you have. Sarah smiled, touching the small heart necklace Marcus had given her for her birthday. I won't. Marcus is the best thing that's ever happened to me. What Sarah didn't know was that Marcus had been meeting with her father, James, in secret. They would have lunch at a small diner near James's work, where Marcus shared his plans for the future. I know it hasn't been a long time, Marcus told James over coffee one afternoon, but when you know, you know. I love your daughter more than anything in this world. James studied the determined young man before him. Over the past months, he had watched Marcus prove himself time and again, showing up for family events, supporting Sarah's career, and loving her unconditionally. You have my blessing, James finally said, reaching across the table to shake Marcus's hand. Just promise me one thing. Always keep making her smile the way she does now. With her father's blessing secured, Marcus began planning the perfect proposal. He arranged everything carefully, wanting every detail to be special. On a Friday evening, Sarah received a mysterious note at work. Meet me where it all began, it read. Her heart beating faster, she made her way to the hospital's physical therapy room. When she opened the door, she gasped. The room had been transformed. Hundreds of tiny lights twinkled from the ceiling, making it look like a starlit sky. Rose petals created a path through the room, and soft music played in the background. Marcus sat in his wheelchair at the end of the path, looking handsome in a dark suit. Behind him stood both their families, all smiling with tears in their eyes. "Sarah," Marcus began, his voice full of emotion, "this room is where our story started. Where you saw past my wheelchair and into my heart. Where you taught me that limitations only exist if we let them." Sarah felt tears forming in her eyes as Marcus continued. "You've shown me what true love means. You've stood by me through every challenge, defended our love against every doubt, and made me want to be a better man every single day." Then, to Sarah's complete surprise, Marcus gripped his supports. Slowly, with tremendous effort, he began to rise from his wheelchair. The room fell silent except for Sarah's soft gasp. Using his leg braces and every ounce of strength he had gained through months of secret therapy, Marcus stood before her. Shakily, but proudly, he lowered himself to one knee. "Sarah Jenkins," he said, pulling out a beautiful ring, "you've already made all my dreams come true. Would you do me the honor of becoming my wife?" Sarah could barely speak through her tears. Their families watched, holding their breath, as she nodded and managed to whisper, "Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes." The room erupted in cheers as Marcus slipped the ring onto her finger. Sarah helped him back into his wheelchair and kissed him deeply, not caring who was watching. "You stood up," she whispered against his lips. "You actually stood up." Marcus wiped away her tears with his thumb. "For you, my love, I'd move mountains. Standing up was just the beginning." As their families surrounded them with hugs and congratulations, Sarah looked at the ring sparkling on her finger. This room, where their journey had begun as therapist and patient, had now become the place where their forever would start. The months following Marcus and Sarah's engagement flew by in a whirlwind of wedding preparations. Their families, once divided by doubts, now worked together to create the perfect celebration of their love. Sarah's mother, Lisa, and Marcus's mother, Eleanor, surprised everyone by becoming an unstoppable wedding planning team. They spent hours together, choosing flowers and discussing decorations, their previous differences forgotten in the excitement of planning their children's special day. "We need to make sure everything is accessible," Eleanor said during one planning session at her mansion. "Marcus should be able to move freely everywhere during the ceremony and reception." Lisa nodded in agreement. "And we should blend both our family traditions. Sarah's grandmother would love to see some of our cultural elements included." Sarah watched the two women with tears in her eyes, remembering how differently things had started. Marcus squeezed her hand, understanding what this moment meant to her. The venue search proved challenging. Many beautiful places weren't wheelchair-friendly enough for Marcus and some of his relatives who also used mobility aids. But then they found the perfect location, a modern garden venue with smooth paths, ramps, and an indoor backup space in case of rain. "It's perfect," Sarah breathed when they first visited. The garden had beautiful flowering trees and a natural arch where they could exchange their vows. The reception area had wide doorways and plenty of space between tables. Marcus was handling his own secret preparations too. He continued his therapy sessions with Mike, determined to surprise everyone at the wedding. Some days were harder than others, but his progress kept him going. "Just think about that first dance," Mike encouraged him during particularly tough sessions. One afternoon, while trying on wedding dresses with her sister Tracy and best friends, Sarah found herself overwhelmed with emotion. The dress she wore was beautiful, simple yet elegant, with delicate lace details. "Sarah," Tracy said softly, seeing her sister's tears, "what's wrong?" "I'm just so happy," Sarah replied, smoothing the white fabric. "A year ago, I was just a physical therapist doing my job. Now I'm marrying the most amazing man, and our families have become one." The wedding plans weren't without challenges. Some guests declined their invitations, uncomfortable with their unique love story. A few of Marcus's business associates made excuses, while some distant relatives on Sarah's side simply didn't respond. "Their loss," Marcus said when Sarah told him about the declined invitations. "We only want people who truly support our love to be there anyway." As the wedding day approached, both families gathered for the rehearsal dinner. James, Sarah's father, stood to make a toast that brought tears to everyone's eyes. When Sarah first told us about Marcus, he began, I worried about all the wrong things. I worried about his disability, about their differences. But love proved me wrong. Marcus has shown us all that true strength isn't about physical ability. It's about the size of your heart. Marcus's father followed with his own toast. And Sarah has taught our family that love sees no barriers. She's brought joy and light not just to Marcus's life, but to our entire family. The night before the wedding, Sarah lay in her childhood bedroom, too excited to sleep. Her phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. Tomorrow, I get to marry my best friend. I can't wait to show you and the world what love can do. Sarah hugged her pillow, smiling at the message. Everything was ready, her dress hung in the closet, the venue was decorated, and their families were united in celebration. But most importantly, she and Marcus have proven that love could break down any barrier, change any heart, and create something beautiful from unexpected beginnings. As she finally drifted off to sleep, Sarah thought about how their wedding would be more than just a ceremony. It would be a testament to the power of true love, a celebration of breaking barriers, and the beginning of their greatest adventure together. The morning of the wedding dawned bright and clear, as if nature itself was celebrating Sarah and Marcus's special day. Sarah woke up early in her childhood home, butterflies dancing in her stomach. It's time to make you into a bride, Tracy said, entering the room with a makeup bag and coffee. Sarah's mother followed with tears already forming in her eyes. Across town, Marcus was getting ready in his own family home. His best man, David, his friend since college days, helped him into his specially tailored black tuxedo. Nervous? David asked, adjusting Marcus's bow tie. Not about marrying Sarah, Marcus smiled. Just hoping everything goes perfectly today. She deserves nothing less. At the garden venue, guests began arriving. The pathway to the ceremony area was lined with white and purple flowers, and gentle music floated through the air. The ushers guided everyone to their seats, making sure Marcus's relatives who used wheelchairs had convenient spots near the aisle. Marcus arrived first, as planned. His father pushed his wheelchair down the aisle while his mother walked beside them, dabbing at her eyes with a handkerchief. The custom-made ramp leading to the altar was decorated with flowers and ribbons, making it look like a natural part of the beautiful setting. Back at her house, Sarah took one final look in the mirror. Her white dress flowed perfectly, and her dark skin glowed with happiness. The delicate veil framed her face, and she wore the heart necklace Marcus had given her months ago. You look like an angel, her father said, appearing in the doorway in his best suit. James's eyes were wet with tears. Ready to marry your prince? Sarah nodded, unable to speak through her emotion. This was really happening. At the venue, the music changed. The guests stood as the bridal party began their entrance. Tracy, as maid of honor, walked down first, followed by Sarah's other bridesmaids, all wearing elegant purple dresses. Then the wedding march began. Everyone turned to watch as Sarah appeared on her father's arm. Marcus felt his breath catch in his throat. She was more beautiful than he had ever imagined. Sarah and her father slowly made their way down the aisle. She smiled at the guests, but her eyes were fixed on Marcus. His face showed pure love and joy, making her heart swell. When they reached the altar, James kissed his daughter's cheek and placed her hand in Marcus's. "Take care of each other," he whispered to them both. The minister began the ceremony with words about love's power to overcome all obstacles. Sarah and Marcus had written their own vows, and there wasn't a dry eye in the garden when they spoke. "Sarah," Marcus began, his voice strong with emotion, "you saw me when others looked away. You loved me for who I am, not what I can or cannot do. I promise to spend every day showing you that love knows no limitations." Sarah wiped away tears as she spoke her vows. "Marcus, you taught me that true love breaks down every barrier. Your strength inspires me, your kindness moves me, and your love completes me. I promise to walk beside you through whatever life brings us." They exchanged rings, a simple gold band for Marcus and a delicate diamond ring for Sarah that matched her engagement ring. "By the power vested in me," the minister announced, "I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride." Sarah leaned down as Marcus reached up, their lips meeting in a perfect kiss while their guests erupted in cheers and applause. Even the few skeptical relatives who had attended couldn't help but be moved by the obvious love between them. As they turned to face their guests as Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, Sarah saw nothing but joy and acceptance on the faces before her. Their family sat together in the front row, proudly watching the couple they had once doubted. What nobody knew was that the biggest surprise of the day was yet to come. As Marcus and Sarah prepared to head to the reception area, he squeezed her hand, knowing that in just a few minutes, their perfect day would become even more magical. The reception area buzzed with excitement as guests took their seats. Beautiful centerpieces decorated each table, and soft lighting created a magical atmosphere. The wedding coordinator announced it was time for the couple's first dance. Sarah stood nervously beside Marcus's wheelchair at the edge of the dance floor. They had practiced a wheelchair dance routine, but she noticed an unusual twinkle in her new husband's eyes. "Ladies and gentlemen," the DJ announced, "please welcome the newlyweds, Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, for their first dance." Marcus squeezed Sarah's hand and whispered, "Honey, I have a surprise for you." To everyone's amazement, especially Sarah's, Marcus pressed a button on his wheelchair. Two sturdy supports quietly emerged from the sides. The room fell silent as Marcus gripped these supports and, with tremendous effort, began to stand up. "Oh my God," Sarah gasped, tears immediately flowing down her cheeks. Their guests watched in awe as Marcus slowly rose to his full height. Mike, his physical therapist, stepped forward from the crowd with leg braces that had been hidden nearby. With practiced movements, he helped Marcus secure them quickly. Sarah could hardly believe her eyes. This was why Marcus had been so insistent on their song being 5 minutes long. "May I have this dance?" Marcus asked, standing tall before her, supported by his braces and determination. Sarah could barely speak through her tears but managed to nod. As their chosen song, "Perfect" by Ed Sheeran, began to play, Marcus took her in his arms. They began to sway gently to the music, Marcus's movements careful but sure. "How?" Sarah whispered as they danced. "When did you?" "Remember all those business meetings on Tuesdays and Thursdays?" Marcus smiled. "I was actually working with Mike. Been practicing for 6 months, just for this moment." Their families watched from their tables, overcome with emotion. Eleanor Thompson sobbed openly into her husband's shoulder, while Lisa and James Jenkins held each other, their faces shining with joy and pride. "I can't believe you did this," Sarah said, looking into her husband's eyes. "You learned to walk again, just for our wedding dance." "For you," Marcus replied, "I'd learn to fly if I could, but walking seemed like a good start." As they moved slowly around the dance floor, their guests began to rise to their feet. Some were crying, others cheering softly. Nancy, who had been there at their very first meeting, was filming everything on her phone, tears streaming down her face. Marcus's business partners, who had initially been skeptical of his relationship with Sarah, watched in amazement. They now understood that this was a love story that defied all expectations. Near the end of the song, Marcus began to tire, but his smile never faded. Sarah held him closer, supporting him as he had always supported her. Together, they finished their dance to thunderous applause from their guests. As Mike helped Marcus back into his wheelchair, Sarah knelt beside him and kissed him deeply, not caring that everyone was watching. The photographer captured this moment, a moment that would later go viral and inspire millions. "That was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen," Tracy said, hugging her sister fiercely. "You two are incredible." The rest of the reception was a blur of joy and celebration. Everyone wanted to congratulate the couple, not just on their marriage, but on their incredible display of love and determination. Later that evening, as they enjoyed their wedding cake, Sarah noticed Marcus looking tired but happy. "You didn't have to do that, you know," she said softly. "I love you exactly as you are." "I know," Marcus replied, taking her hand. "That's exactly why I wanted to do it. Because you love me for me, not for what I can or can't do. But I wanted to give you this moment, to show you and everyone else that love really can make miracles happen." As the evening continued, videos of their dance were already being shared on social media. Their story was touching hearts far beyond their wedding venue, showing the world that true love knows no boundaries. Sarah looked at her wedding ring, then at her husband, knowing that this was just the beginning of their miraculous journey together. 1 year after their magical wedding, Sarah and Marcus sat in their beautiful home, watching their wedding video for the 100th time. The video of their first dance had gone viral, reaching millions of people around the world and changing their lives in ways they never expected. Can you believe it's been a year already? Sarah asked, curled up next to Marcus on their specially designed couch. She was wearing the heart necklace he had given her during their dating days, never having taken it off. Best year of my life, Marcus replied, kissing her forehead. Their wedding dance video playing on their TV had over 10 million views now, and the comments section was filled with messages of hope and inspiration. The past year had brought amazing changes to both their lives. After their story went viral, Marcus's company, Thompson Tech Solutions, received hundreds of letters from disabled people seeking help with adaptive technology. This inspired Marcus to create a new division in his company focused solely on developing affordable mobility aids. Remember when that TV show wanted to interview us? Sarah laughed, thinking about their appearance on Good Morning America 3 months after their wedding. They had shared their love story with the world, encouraging others to look past physical limitations and social prejudices. Their families had grown even closer. Every Sunday, both the Thompsons and Jenkins gathered for dinner, taking turns hosting at their homes. Today's dinner would be at their house, and Sarah could already smell the famous Jenkins family recipes mixing with Eleanor Thompson's specialty dishes in their kitchen. Marcus continued his therapy with determination. Though he still primarily used his wheelchair, he could now stand and take short walks with his braces for special occasions. Each small victory was celebrated by both families as if it were a grand achievement. "Honey," Marcus said, pausing the video, "I have some news to share at dinner tonight." His eyes sparkled with excitement. "The Thompson-Jenkins Foundation has been approved. We can start helping other couples facing similar challenges." Sarah's eyes filled with tears of joy. This foundation had been their dream, a way to provide support, resources, and hope to couples dealing with disabilities and social prejudices. They would offer scholarships for physical therapy, grants for adaptive equipment, and counseling services. "That's wonderful." Sarah hugged him tightly. She had recently reduced her hours at the hospital to help manage the foundation, feeling called to help others find the same happiness she and Marcus had found. The doorbell rang, announcing the arrival of their families. Tracy burst in first, now heavily pregnant with her first child. "Your future niece has been kicking all day," she announced, making everyone laugh. As their family settled in for dinner, Sarah looked around the table with a full heart. Her father James was deep in conversation with Marcus about the foundation's plans. Their mothers, Lisa and Eleanor, were arranging dishes together like old friends, while Marcus's father entertained Tracy's husband with stories about his law practice. "I'd like to make a toast," Marcus announced, carefully standing with his braces. Everyone quickly raised their glasses. "To love that knows no boundaries, to family that grows stronger through challenges, and to all the lives we hope to touch through our foundation. And to my wonderful husband," Sarah added, standing beside him, "who showed the world that love can make miracles happen." After dinner, as their families chatted in the living room, Marcus pulled Sarah aside to their garden. The evening air was warm, and fairy lights twinkled in the trees. "Do you ever regret choosing such a complicated path?" he asked softly. Sarah turned to face him, her eyes serious. "The only complicated thing would have been living without you. Everything else, the stairs, the challenges, the prejudices, they'd only made our love stronger." Marcus smiled, remembering how far they had come from their first meeting in the physical therapy room. Their story had not only changed their lives but had become a beacon of hope for others. As they rejoined their families inside, Sarah thought about all the couples who would be helped by their foundation, all the lives that would be touched because two people dared to love beyond boundaries. Their story wasn't just about a black woman and a disabled man finding love. It was about showing the world that true love could break down any barrier, overcome any obstacle, and inspire countless others to believe in miracles.